Hello friends and fashion lovers, you're welcome back. In today's tutorial, we'll be making this lovely yet simple yoke dress for a baby. I want to say thank you for all your love and your support, and thank you for clicking on this video. If you're here for the first time, my name is Esther and I love to sew for babies and ladies. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. Without further ado, let's get right into the making of the dress. So here I have my velvet design knits, a bias tape, a lining, a button, and velvet fabric. So the pattern I'm using for this tutorial, the link will be in the description box, an airline dress pattern, the sleeveless one. So here I already have the full length of my dress, so I'm going to mark the shoulder width that I have here after taking out the neckline. So I'm just marking it. In case you're wondering how many inches the shoulder width, yes, it's 2 inches. So now that I'm done marking, I just connect the points to form a yoke. Yes, can you see how simple that was? So I'm going to cut it out. Then note, you have to notch where your yoke and your dress meet. It's the same dress, but you get the point. Where the yoke and the lower part of the dress meets, just notch that and indicate. So your pattern is done. It's time to cut on your main fabric. So here I have my fabric on fold. So I'm going to place my pattern on it, and I'm going to mark the neckline that will be connected to the yoke and also my dress length. So I'm going to extend this marking. That's my dress length marking. In the quest to have a straight edge to work with, I'm just going to draw a straight line by the side just to keep it straight. Now I'm going to connect the previous marked neckline to the edge. And in case you're wondering how many inches that is, it's 1.5 inches. And I'm going to cut my fabric out. So next is to cut my armhole. How can you just cut the armhole? What about the seaming allowance and all that? Don't worry. Just place your pattern, ensure to have a seaming allowance, and you cut. It's what I just did here. It's just that I did place a pattern on it. So next is to shorten it, but this part is totally optional. I decided to shorten my lining because I didn't want it to be the same length or a little bit less, maybe have an inch less than the net fabric. So it's just a matter of choice. So here my net fabric is on fold. I'm going to replace what I had taken out from the lining. I'm putting it back. So I took out 1 inch, but here I am putting back 1.5 inches. So I have a little bit extra to work with. So I'm going to place my previously cut fabric. I'm using it as a pattern and I'm cutting my knit with that. So with this, I will notch. Yes, it's important to notch this point. It comes in very handy much later. So I'm going to set this aside and let's work on the yoke. So on the yoke, I have 2 pieces of fabric here and I'm going to fold it once and I'm going to fold it again. You know how you do a full circle skirt, or you're trying to cut a donut, or one of those things. So here I'm placing my yoke on that folded fabric. So I'll just secure it with a pin or whatever you want to use to secure it. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to just stress this out for visibility's sake. Yes, just stress it out. After tracing it out, I did not forget to show the notch part. So please note that this is on full. This is a full circle. Ensure to add your seaming allowance and cut. After cutting, it's time to notch. Yes, it's important to notch. And that is not the only place you're going to notch. You're going to notch the center points. Be sure to notch the centers. Open it up. Please note that I have 2 pieces for this yoke. So I've opened, and that opening will be my back. So it's time to meet all my pieces. So I have my yoke, my bias step, and my knits and my lining. So I'm going to start stitching, and I will be starting with the lining and the knit. So make sure that you have right sides together, and you're going to be sewing it by the side. But in case you are doing a French seam, it means that you're going to be having the wrong side together first. After sewing that with a 1/4 inch seaming allowance, you turn it to right sides together to sew, just the same way you would do normal stitching. So ensure to use your prepared seaming allowance. After sewing, place the lining inside the knits the way you would want it to appear. Use a bias step, and so I needed a little bit of this black detail. That's why I had to sew it once, turn my bias step over and sew it again. This way it makes my seam to last longer. I don't know how you do yours. So after finishing my armhole, I just decided to add a little bit of detail to the center back by cutting it about 1 inch or so. I am going to still use the same black bias to give it a detail. When I was done, I proceeded to sew my yoke together, right side facing. I know it's dark, you won't see all the detail. So right side facing, you sew the center, you sew the back, center back, and you only sew the notch part. Remember when I told you to notch? Yes, it comes in handy at this point. So because I'm using a button at the back, so I decided to make myself a button loop. So that is what you've seen me insert in. That's what you've seen me sandwich in. So go ahead and sew using your seaming allowance. Sew the center back where you have the button loop, and only sew the notch part, leaving the rest opened. Now that we are done sewing, I had notched, so it's time to tuck it in to reveal the right side. So now I have my right side out. The right side of the yoke is out. So moving on now, you can press it, then gather the down part of your dress and attach it to the yoke. you have to gather the down part of your dress to match with the yoke. So for the gathering, I like using machine for my gathering. I'm not using any gathering foot. So I use the wider stitch on my sewing machine. So here I am going to sew the yoke and the dress together. So depending on how you want it finished, I want the final seam to be along the front. That's why I had to put it in and pin it the way you've seen me do, matching the center point that I had notched. Then I can adjust my gathers. If you want the seam finished behind, maybe you want to unstitch it, please do it the opposite way that I've done it, not on the inside. Making sure to leave one of your sides open. Now sew your yoke and your dress together. So while sewing any gathered part of the dress to a straight dress, I like to take my time and adjust my gathers as I go. So after sewing the yoke and the main dress together, now it's time to push that raw edge in and use the open part of your yoke to cover the seam. I had a company at this point. She's just waiting for the dress to be ready. So just ensure to pin and adjust the seam line as you go. Just tuck it in. You want everything to be concealed. You don't want any raw edges to show. So push that seam in and pin it in place. So just to reinforce the open part, I'm going to stitch an even stitch along the armhole. Is it the armhole or the shoulder? You get the point. The initial part that I had already stitched, because I don't want it to stretch. So I'm going to reinforce that seam there. So take your time. You don't want this seam line appearing at the back or just looking messy. You want everything to look very neat. That's why you have to take your time. Arrange it and sew. I'm beginning to sound like a broken record. Take your time. So I've attached a button to it. And to accessorize it a bit, I'm adding a red brooch, this nice flower brooch to it. So the dress is ready. If this tutorial was helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I want to say a big thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.